Yeah, so let's be real practical here, Shane, for a second, because I think that point is so powerful. This idea of saying we have more capacity than we know. And our mind will tell us that this is all that we can do. And the reality is if we just continue to push, we often find reserves that we don't even know we have that allows us to get through things. So if you're talking to someone who's going through a difficult moment, going through a traumatic experience, trying to overcome a failure, whatever it might be very practical with this for a minute. If you were going to put it in 3 steps or 5 steps or something like that, how would you coach them? What would you tell them to do?
Well, I think number one, it's about appreciation of the past.
Okay.
Right. When you think about, for me as a person of color, I'm alive today because my ancestors overcame slavery.
Okay.
When you understand that you come from people who endured such heinous crimes, and I'm still here today, then what I'm dealing with in the office, what I'm dealing with at home in a relationship, what I'm dealing with in my own mind can't be worse than what they've overcome. So that gives me some idea that my capacity must be greater, right? And then secondly, I got to rely on my faith, right? There has to be something that I can hold on to that says that greater is he that is within me than he that is in the world. There has to be something that I can pull from to give me strength, that ultimately what I'm dealing with is not greater than what I will become. Right. There has to be something, right? And it doesn't matter which faith you prescribe to, but there has to be something that you can read when you're going to bed at night that can give you the strength, the capacity, the mental fortitude to truly push through. Right. And then thirdly, I would say it is so critical and important to talk and express what is happening in your life. When we let it out, I don't care if you're talking to a dog, you're talking to a therapist, you're talking to your pillow. But when you get it out, it's like unloading bricks that are in your backpack, right? The more you put bricks in that backpack, it's going to slow you down. And to a certain degree, it might even stop you. But if you can begin to take one brick at a time out of that backpack, now all of a sudden you can reach a second wind and you can get to a point where it's much lighter and you take off. Right. And so we got to get to a place where we begin to talk about the trauma that we've experienced, where we release that negativity, where we forgive other people who aren't even concerned about us today. We got to get to a point where we release those things so that we have the fortitude to keep moving forward past them.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And one of the things that I took from your book that I thought was so interesting was when reflecting back on your experience, you talked about how so often it wasn't really talked about. People just kind of moved on and there wasn't a whole lot that was processed or said. And so to hear you now saying, no, that's really, really important. In my world of conflict management, there's oftentimes we talk about needing to let people pour it out because there's great therapy in terms of them pouring it out and to be comfortable with giving people the opportunity to pour it out, whatever that looks like. That may be a very emotional moment. It may be a moment that happens over the course of a year as people are processing and allowing their emotions and allowing it to come out. But I think there's just some incredible advice there in terms of people being intentional about processing some of the failures and some of the difficult moments that they have to overcome in life.
Well, you know, what's interesting about that, what comes to mind is a moment that I had about 5 years ago. I was got a phone call from my little sister and brother about some trauma that was happening, but I was so many miles away that I couldn't help. And I felt helpless in that moment. And I went outside and I started swinging at the wall. And my wife came and grabbed me and she held me. And she just said something that was so liberating in that moment. She said, I got you. Let it out.
Wow.
I got you. Let it out. Think about the power in that moment of, I don't need somebody to take it away. It is what it is. It's difficult. It's hard. But what I need in this moment is the space without judgment to let it out. We're all promised trials and tribulations. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to have obstacles and adversity in your life, but you got to let it out. Because when you let it out, you'll get to your second win. It's just like in basketball. My best game I've ever played in my life was against Mississippi State on my senior night. In the first half, I had 6 points. We were down by 12 points going into halftime. But at halftime, I caught my second win. And when I caught that second win, I returned and hit 9 3-pointers in a row, took the game into overtime, and then hit a 3-pointer to win the game. It's the exact same thing that happens in life. It's going to be hard. Things that you do aren't going to work. It's going to seem like failure is imminent. But if you can get to your second win, that ultimately you'll find out that greatness is on the other side.